We're bringing back 11 o'clock makeup. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is a foundation first impression video. I know it's been a long time since I've done one of these, but it's been a long time since I've gotten a new foundation. This is the Allure Best of Beauty winner, the Maybelline Superstay Lumi Matte Foundation. I got this at the Allure Best of Beauty live event. I did this game where I rolled some dice and I picked a prize, and they had this foundation as one of the prizes, so I simply just asked for the lightest shade that they have, and they gave me 20YN00. I'm really excited. It's been a long time since I've tried a true drugstore foundation. Like, there are brands that are, I would say, drugstore adjacent, like About Face Beauty, because they are so affordable, or like slightly more expensive than the drugstore. But the last time I tried a drugstore foundation was a very, very long time ago. I'm just prepping my skin with the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Rich Face Base, which is, as you know, like my go-to base for all testing of foundations, just because it's like, I think the most neutral primer that I have, while also being like a super hydrating and enriching primer. So I know that my skin, which is normally really dry, is hydrated and prepped the correct way to give all the foundations a fighting chance. Skin is primed. Let us go with this foundation. I actually really like the bottle. I like the purple cap. I like the purple pump. It feels good. It feels chic. It feels interesting. Not that like foundations have to feel cool or chic or interesting, but it's like an attractive bottle. I'm gonna pump some on the back of my hand. It is, I would say, like a kind of watery foundation. You can see it's kind of moving. This also may not be my shade. We will see. I'm gonna start by taking a little bit on my finger and blending it into the skin. I did just go on vacation to Mexico City, and I was outside walking in the sun. I walked 50 miles in 6 days, and I used sunscreen the whole time, and I just assume I like never get any color on my face. So this foundation looks to be a little light, but I think that might just be because I got technically a little tan from all the walking. As with all of my foundation review videos, I look crazy right now. As with all of my foundation first impressions, I always go in with a beauty sponge. It's just the tool that I use on a daily basis, so using a brush wouldn't be conducive to my actual feelings. So we're just gonna go in and pounce this into the skin. Wow, this is, maybe this does still fit me. I think I'm getting some hyperpigmentation back in my face. I had it really, really bad when I was in college. And then it just like kind of went away, which was really clutch. But now I notice in a few of my videos, as I'm putting on like primer and stuff, that my face is reacting and getting really red, which hasn't happened in so long. It's just been difficult for me to find foundation right now that I feel like really truly fit me. But I will say the color match on this, asking for the lightest shade in a foundation that is drugstore usually works for me, and it worked for me this time. It applied really well. I just do want to note that maybe don't use the technique I used, because I do see where I like started the circle. It did start to dry down, and there were little like lines where it was. Like, you could see where I worked the foundation with my finger. It dried pretty quickly, but it does seem like overall it blended out really well. And even though I did see a few of those like lingering like outlines of the circles I drew, I was able to blend them out pretty effortlessly. So let me just zoom you in here and we can look at my face. Okay, so this is one layer of the foundation. I think it looks really, really nice. I was nervous when it said like Lumi matte foundations and dry skin. It's like oil and water, right? They just don't mix. But I do think the perk of having like a super hydrating base like I had with the Bobbi Brown primer is indicative of how I feel this foundation is sitting well on my skin and doesn't look too drying. It actually does feel like super luminous. Like, you can see I do have like shininess, which I think is partially from the primer as well, but I also do think it is a claim of the foundation, so it must be partially the foundation as well. It doesn't feel heavy on the skin. It really just sinks into the skin, but it doesn't necessarily dry down. I did this and I'm definitely picking up some product, so Just a note, if you don't like to set your foundation with powder, like me, that you just have to be very mindful of that. I think it blended out to like, I would say a light coverage, which I'm sure I could build up to medium. It seems like it would be a buildable formula, and it dried pretty quickly. And it just looks really nice. I do feel like, you can see in my smile line here, you can kind of, I do feel like it's accentuated a little bit, but we'll see if it settles. Yeah, that's my first impression of that. Let me layer things on top, do the rest of my makeup, and I will come back with you and we'll talk through my feelings.
20 minutes later.
Okay, so this is the final look with everything layered on top of it. I will say I'm really pleasantly impressed. I had very low expectations for this product going into it just because I'm cautious about like matte or Lumi matte foundations just because I am so incredibly dry. But I will say everything was layering really nice on top of it. The concealer layered well, the powder layered well. I was a little nervous about the cream blush and bronzer because sometimes those can be a bit more difficult to work with, I feel, when you have a matte foundation on a dry skin girly, but applied like butter, like butter. So let me zoom you guys in and we'll look at everything and then I'll give you my final first impressions. Okay, hopefully my makeup application looks okay. It's midnight, but I wait till midnight to do it every time. I also forgot eyebrow gel. I'm too lazy. I have to buy a new one. So look it. I mean, I think like highlight is super blinding, applied super well on top of it. My mouth area is where I tend to get driest and I don't feel dry. Crazy. My cheeks are always like my best area of my face, I think, for like these foundation tests. They always stand up the best on my cheeks. The bronzer and blush is super bright and vibrant. It's present, as well as on my nose. I do feel like I set this area with powder and it doesn't look too powdery. It doesn't feel like it takes away from my face. I still do feel there is a little bit of luminosity in these areas that I didn't use a highlighter on, which is really nice. Forehead looks great. And I was nervous about my smile line, but after applying everything on top, it feels like the oils in my face or whatever, like my natural skin really like worked well with the foundation. You can barely even see, I mean, I can't really see what I was worried about before, which was my smile line. I think it looks really nice. I think it looks really nice. Anyway, I think my first impressions are I'm really impressed by this foundation. I don't know how much it costs now. Let's see, because I think the one thing that stops me from buying drugstore these days is because drugstore prices have become exorbitant. Like, I live in New York City and the L'Oreal Infallible mascara that I got last year at Allure Best of Beauty, that was like one of my holy grail mascaras, it's $21 at the drugstore. A high-end mascara is $23 to $25. So it just feels like the prices are getting a little bit obscene for me, and that's why I'm like, well, if I'm gonna spend $21 on a drugstore product, I might as well spend $23 on a high-end product that is a little bit better. So let me see what this foundation costs. It costs $15.99, which is still not bad, I guess, these days. I remember when foundations were $7.99 from Maybelline, but we'll take $15.99. So if you were looking for a more affordable option, in quotes, because I think, as I just mentioned, like drugstore pricing has been getting very expensive, but if you want a drugstore product that I think works really, really well, this is a really good option. I do plan on doing a full wear test of this like I had done previously. I just have to get up early and put it on my face and go to work with it. But yeah, I think I'm overall really impressed by it. It doesn't feel dry on my face, which is interesting. I do fear that it could get dry. I also feel like the setting spray I use, which is this one from L'Oreal, it's the Infallible, it just is like a drier setting spray, so maybe when I wear it for a long time, I'll just set it with like a MAC Fix Plus, which is like, I think, a pretty neutral setting spray. Anyway guys, yeah, that's my first impression of this foundation. I'm pretty impressed. Like I said, I haven't used a Maybelline foundation in a very, very long time, and I gotta say, this is hyped, and I do think, as of right now, my very first impressions is I do think it lives up to the hype. Mostly, I'm impressed that I picked the right shade, which is 102. I realize it's on the bottle. I never told you guys. Shade 102. But yeah, guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone. Hold on. Actually, I just finished filming that video. I'm coming right back on. It's been like 15 minutes of the foundation on my face and I do feel tightness right here and right here. And I am starting to worry about the longevity of this foundation on my skin, which again is like extremely dry. I have extremely dry skin, I have extremely dry hair, I have eczema, like I am dry skinned girly. And this is feeling just a little tight on my face and that makes me a little nervous. I'm gonna like go back on my first impression and say that I'm cautiously optimistic on this rather than being very impressed by it, because it seems like if you have normal to oily skin, this is gonna be a really nice foundation for you. It is like a Lumi matte, so you can still look luminous while having that like mattifying effect. But for people like me who are really, really dry and can look like the Sahara Desert very quickly and very easily, even with my like very super hydrating primer, still feeling tightness in my face is a sign that this will look dry. So all I can say is I do foresee it looking dry. I do foresee it feeling uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time. I will have to do a full wear test. Just wanted to come on here and say that before I left because I was like, huh, that's different. We'll wait for the full wear test.